Hello, everybody, and welcome to this brand new episode of Motorsport Idag podcast. Today, we have a little bit of a special episode where we have somebody that is working on a magazine, but of course, as always, racing related with these great screenshots in the back. I like that. That's good thinking of you from your side. We see some great late models, and I'm gonna let our guest once again introduce himself.
Hello, I'm John Miller. I'm a motorsports photojournalist in the New England region of the United States. And I cover most all forms of motorsports, but I specialize in short track asphalt oval racing.
All right, that's cool because as you might know, we all, at least we that love motorsport, we love about, the truck series, Xfinity, Arca, and that's sort of the higher series, so it's good to see, when it doesn't mean, super big payouts, super big money that you have to sort of participate in these races, and sort of the more root level of the oval racing and NASCAR. So for me, I've always been interested in to hear about this sort of type of racing and the aesthetics of the car and a little bit of the specification of the cars, etc. So what can you say? What is short track racing, and why is this so appealing to you as a person?
This level of racing is, you're exactly right. It's the almost the feeder to the Xfinity, to the Arca, to the truck series. You have a range of drivers that start in their very early teens, 14, 15, 16 years old, that come out of smaller legend cars or go-karts and jump right into these super late models that are, 4 to 500 horsepower, 26, 2,700 pounds on 12-inch Hoosiers. And they range from very, very small bullring tracks like this, which is Oxford Plains Speedway, to we were just at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, which is a 1 mile, extremely fast venue where lap times were 29 and a half seconds and averaged 127 miles an hour, all the way down to a 15 and a half second lap time with an average of 85 miles an hour. So it's a big range, and it allows young driver development programs to start on a small level, but then work their way up to these higher levels. It appeals to me because I grew up in a racing family. My grandfather raced, and he was actually a chassis builder and a car builder. My cousins raced quarter midgets at Little Thompson, Little T, and I grew up always as a fan. My mom and dad really weren't enthusiastic on letting me participate in that sort of thing. But once I through high school and college, I raced snowmobiles and off-road motocross, hare scrambles, enduro. Then I participated in autocross driver skill events, track days, time trials. So I have a range of personal experience, and along with family experience as well. This appeals to me because where we are in our region, very few things you can do as a family, and it really starts as a family sport. Moms, dads, cousins, brothers, they all do it together. The mom is there, whether she's on the radio or changing tires or checking air pressures, or sometimes the dad is there just as support. It's amazing. Good friends of mine actually literally just brought their newborn son within 2 weeks old to their first race yesterday.
Wow.
So that was really cool. That's what appeals to me, is it's a family sport, and it's very accessible. A small family with a limited budget can show up and be competitive, or a Kyle Busch Motorsports can show up with their big hauler, and Christopher Bell or Kyle Busch can even show up with these guys, and they run on the same track. So that's really cool, and that I really enjoy that.
Yeah, I've actually seen that. I don't remember exactly when it was. I even saw Danny Hamlin has been on one of these as well. So and that,
Yep.
being a European, and we of course we have more formula racing, open wheel racing basically over here. And as you're a racing fan, it's a huge different thing. Not only the cars itself, but the budget you need to race are ridiculous. And I love all kinds. I love snowmobiles, all the supercross, etc. But what I love about NASCAR, and I said this a billion times, and I will say 1 billion 1 times, is that it's exactly as you describe it. You can go with your family. You can all share the love of racing and the love of cars. You can get very close to the drivers. You can get very close to the cars. And even though, as the drivers are trying to sort of focus on the task at hand, which is, of course, producing a good result on track, you can still, as a fan, go up to them and ask different things. And seconds later, they jump in the car and go. And that's what I love about not only America, but also American philosophy around events in general. So that has to be a great thing.
For sure. Actually, right. It's funny you say that. Right now in the background, this is the Aspire Higher program. Middle school kids built and maintained this race car right here.
Wow, that's impressive.
So, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade kids that are 11, 12, 13 years old are literally doing that. It's fun. I just saw it. So you have an experienced driver with these young kids. Talk about accessibility. I mean, that's it. I mean, when we were kids, I never had that opportunity. So this is really cool. And you're 100% right. I've had the opportunity, just being a photographer, to go in the haulers and get access that no one else would get. I only live about 6 hours from Montreal, and Formula One visits there, of course, every year. Getting a credential for that, or even getting close to that, is like, it's not obtainable, or in the short foreseeable future. I don't. It's amazing, but when the big stars come to short track stuff like this, you literally can just go right up to them and take a picture and shake their hand and thank them for coming. It's great.
Yeah. No, we have the same thing over here. We have something called the V8 Thunder Car series. So that would be what the Trans Am series would be for you guys, basically.
Awesome.
And it's the same thing. We run Camaros, we run Mustangs, and it's the same thing. I even have some friends there that won the Swedish Championship last year. And why I'm touching on it is the same thing. You can go up to the drivers, and it's much smaller scale than a Trans Am series, but the philosophy is still the same, and that's why I like. You can just talk about whatever you want, and it's good. If you try to get hold of Fernando Alonso or Sebastian Vettel, it's you have to go through that guy, and after the. So that's what I love about it, and that is so cool. I didn't know that these youngsters were able to work on this car and have a finger in developing the car, and that is not only good for racing, but I'm thinking the broad picture. The American automotive industry, maybe they can do something there. You never know where they go in life, but it's such a good and inspiring thing to hear.
Yeah, it's. I remember being a racing fan, going to my local track, Unity Raceway, 8, 9 years old, and sitting in the stands, and there's so many people there. I couldn't even wave my flag, and I couldn't imagine, a few years later being in the pits working on a car. Like, mind's blown. So it's such a cool thing. I just happened to catch it while it was playing behind me. So yeah, it's super, super cool.
I'm very happy that you mentioned it, because that is I've interviewed a lot of people, but I've never heard of something like that. And you miss that because no offense to the higher level guys or the higher level teams, but you don't see that, of course, on Kyle Busch number 18 car, of course. But that's right. How you start, because I think as I said, the broader picture, because maybe they choose to go to a truck team, work on in BKR or whatever, and that's why I like because you try to get these youngsters in the business, and sometimes they can end up as a mechanic or whatever, and they end up as a driver later. Those opportunities are still in the NASCAR racing world, which I love so much.
Absolutely, it's and that's this local type of racing. It gives younger people or people that want to get into it an opportunity to work, even if it's in the next pit stall over. If you've got some hand tools and an open trailer and you're going racing with your friends, the next pit stall over could be a $1 million hauler with a cup level team, and you get to see, scratch and sniff that technology. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I think this is very important, because I don't know if you saw it, but during the 2014, I think, Australian Formula One Grand Prix, the broadcasters of that sort of network went to a NASCAR race, and they interviewed Jimmy Johnson. And it was so important. It was so interesting to hear him say that the technology that we use to advance our race cars would impress most Formula One teams. And that's what I'm trying to say here is it's important for the listeners over in Europe, because we watch Formula One mostly, or MotoGP, all this. It's important to understand that it really requires big brains and technology to advance these types of race cars, even if we talk late models, trucks, Arca, Xfinity, etc. It does take a group of really talented people to make it happen.
Technology is coming down from NASCAR to even these guys. This is Austin Terrio, who's currently the points leader in the ARCA series right now. This was last year at the Oxford 250, and they're using pull down rigs, simulation rigs on this local level stuff now, so they can measure their dynamic ride heights and their loads on each tire, in a local garage like you and I can have. So that technology is trickling down even to this level.
Yeah, exactly. I just had to touch because it's so important, because I have been in discussion with people that don't really, NASCAR this and NASCAR that, with these different comments that doesn't really help either them or the sport itself. And I think it's important to realize that it does require, like you see, it starts early.
Yeah. Isn't that
That's
great?
good. No, but it's, and I'm going to ask this question. It's a little bit of a difficult question, but I think maybe some listeners, and especially Europeans, needs to hear it and reflect around it. So why do you think the NASCAR series, as all of the series in general, Pinty or, doesn't matter, why do you think it's been so successful? Is it the accessibility? Is it the branding when it comes to commercials, or is it just a big hoop of all of it combined?
I think the average fan can relate to the drivers, they can relate to the cars on the track, and they can relate to the sponsorship and the marketing. It's all about relationships and having a similar common bond. Yeah. We have racing, and even just in New England, we have racing that is not fendered cars. We have open wheel, like the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. I love covering and watching those races. My family is very open wheel centric. That's where we're from, and I love it. But for some reason, that hasn't exploded. There's another series that does come to the Northeast, the International Super Modified Association, the big block super modifieds, which are winged asphalt sprint cars that are the fastest short track cars in North America, but their popularity has not exploded and probably won't, because there's no relation. There's no relation to the cars that they drive or the sponsors that they see in the stores or the personalities. I think it's all about relating.
Yeah, because I think it was good that you talked about that, because I always had that on my mind, because that's what I think is the problem with Formula One. Not only because, let's face it, I love Formula One, but at the end of the day, it's the problem is that it's not nice when you know that 5 or 6 laps in a race that guy's going to win because he had pole position. And also the issue is, as I see, if you look at Lewis Hamilton or the problem, they can't really relate because they're multimillionaires. Lots of them have rich parents. If somebody that is equally as talented, I have 4 stars. I think that Kurt Busch and Kyle Busch are more or less equally as talented as most Formula One guys. Or we could take Scott Dixon in IndyCar. But the problem is the money you have to race in Formula One is ridiculous. I have a friend that races in F2, which is the series under, is $2-3 million for one season. You know, and these guys are less than my
Yeah.
age. They are between, we say 16 up to, go up. And where are you gonna find that level? That's more than a cup car chassis costs. Like, what is it? Isn't that around 500,000, 1 million, 1.5, whatever? And it needs $3 million for one season in the lower series. And I know Marcus Ericsson, it's a Swedish F1 driver. It's like, what is it, 30 million for one season. That's you can't relate to that because it's up here. And that's exactly, I know it's I talk too much, that's the way I work, but I still feel I have a point in what I'm saying though, because it doesn't feel, for the Americans, let's face it, Americans are hardworking people. Most of them are normal people, that doesn't have a super rich dad or a super rich mom or a super rich relative. They work, some have a cornfield they work on, and they have this level. They don't have access to this level, and therefore you can't relate to it.
And I think you're exactly right, and that's what I found because we have also midgets. We have midgets. We have open wheel modifieds. We have all these other forms of racing that are visually and essentially spectacular, like mind blowing. But they're nowhere near as popular as even like a super late model or any fendered car because of the relation. It's hard to relate, and that's okay. And I think it's okay to have the variety, but like Formula One or Formula Two or Formula E, even IndyCar, that relation isn't there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's unfortunate, and I think like I'm a big fan. I always have been a big fan of the Australian V8 supercars.
Yeah, thank you.
They're huge. They're huge, 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 and you can relate to. It's a four-door saloon car. It's a V8. It looks very, very similar to what you can see on the street.
Yeah.
Yes, they do have expensive levels of, maintenance and the chassis and the motors, but you can relate.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so I think that's the crux of that.
Yeah, I really realize, that is a huge thing of catching the Americans, because they are very special in what they demand from the product. And we all are, but I think I'm thinking about now breaking through in America. Then you have to find you can't just find one or two puzzle pieces. You have to find all of the puzzle pieces. Because if you go to Australia, you can maybe find one or two because that's the way of the culture there. It's not about the people. It's just about the racing culture and what you grow up with and how you pass it on and what you feel is relatable, as you have been telling from before. So that's it's good that you're not the only one that agrees with me. That's good. So I feel you. Can you talk us through these cars? A little bit, not sort of overly groundly, but about a little bit of the chassis specifications for us Europeans, because these cars are, let's face it, bloody sexy. They are, and it would be nice to know a little bit more about the car itself.
Sure, they are really like a tube chassis base. Where we live up here, there's a few different manufacturers of chassis. There's Dale Shaw Race Cars, Distance Racing Products, and then some come up from the south with a little bit of NASCAR trickle down. The short of it is, it's a tube-based chassis car with a Chevrolet-based or Ford-based V8 motor in the 350 cubic inch range, which they're still carbureted. They range depending on the specification and what type of weight penalty they want to pay, from your basic 400 to 430 horsepower crate, literally from the manufacturer, from Chevrolet. You can get a crate motor, drop it in, and go racing. Extremely reliable, sealed up, ready to go. And that's in the 2,700 pound range. The further south you go, or if cars start to come up from the south, they'll do high compression, dry sump, upwards of 8,000 RPM.
Wow.
Really, about 550 or a little more horsepower. So with driver, they're around 27 to 2,800 pounds. They run on a 10-inch wide Hoosier on 10-inch wide rims. Same width all the way around. Of course, different diameters for stagger, front and rear. pending on the track, pending on the circumference of the track, or how they have the car set up. Now everything is becoming more scientific with travel indicators, bump stops, and multiple different types of bump stops, from bump springs or air springs. We're talking adjustments of a 16th or a 32nd. A lot of the guys in their trailer or hauler will have things like a coilover commander or something to rate their shock and spring, and to see, or a gale force rig to load the shock and spring to see how much load they're getting on that corner of the car. So it's not just a bunch of locals slamming some springs on a car and going racing. It's becoming extremely scientific. Even in the pits, they're having most teams have their own scales and scale setup. So they're coming in the pits, putting the cars in the jacks and scale them there, and then of course rolling them across through tech if they need to. Aerodynamics, even at average speeds of 80 to 85 miles an hour, the bodies on these cars, they create 1,200 pounds of downforce at 85. So even just little tweaks from bump stops, a 32nd of a like a shim or a packer, or adjusting the quarter panels, flaring the quarter panels, or front bumper adjustments is, half a tenth, fractions of a second that do make a huge difference. Where, if you're 0.3 of a second down on a short track like this, you're a mid to a backpack car. So it's extremely competitive. And these cars are challenging to drive. They're about 1,000 pounds less than a cup car, but the power weight ratio is pretty close. So guys like Eric Jones, or actually Dalton Sargent was just here, who's running ARCA and has run some other things. Christopher Bell has run many of these super late models. The transition from these to the next upper levels, it's very, very smooth, and it's a linear transition. It's not a steep learning curve.
All right. Yeah, I can imagine like maybe ARCA to truck and truck to Xfinity is a bigger step rather than this one, because as when I watch the car, and when I watch how the ARCA cars look, and how the championship is run, I do understand what you're trying to say, because you can sort of see, because if you maybe, let's say that you fall for some drivers in this series, and they end up in the ARCA series, you can see that they are very quick to get up to speed in the ARCA series from what they learn in this series. So it's easy to see what you're trying to put a finger on here, that you can sort of take a lot of valuable information from this series with you as you climb the ladder, sort of subsequently. So that's good to see. And this also, once again, where America racing wise has really succeeded in doing things in a very, very professional and structural way.
Yeah, it allows that transfer. Like, for example, Kyle Busch announced that he's going to race the Governor's Cup at Thunder Road in Vermont on that same weekend and time frame of when NASCAR comes to New Hampshire. So a lot of Kyle Busch, a lot of those guys Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, will come back to these cars for fun or for development with their own teams to race these cars as well. So it does go both ways. It's great for us as a local fan or a journalist or even a team member to be on the track or be in the same presence when these guys come down, just to say, hey, I was there when so-and-so was there, or when Kyle Busch came to Autodrome Chaudière, or when he came to the Oxford 250, I was there too. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, well, I can understand that. So, for the people that, maybe in America or abroad or in Europe or whatever, that doesn't know much about NASCAR and the style of racing. We do know what ovals is, but over here we have the view of it's going around in a circle, which it is, but you have to look further than that to just say, it's going around the circle. Because if you look at racing that way, what is MotoGP? What is Formula One? You just go around the corner, turning left or right. Just because you turn left doesn't mean that it's less of racing than Formula One or MotoGP or rallying or whatever example you want to take. So what could you sort of say, and would you sort of not only sell in NASCAR, but how would you explain the style of racing that NASCAR provides?
Well, I think we've got, here's some onboard of last year's Oxford 250 with Johnny Clark, who's a multi-time champion in our region. You can see, I mean, even right there, he's not going for a country stroll and just turning left. Most of the races are anywhere between 100 and 250 laps. And it's a combination of basic car control, of counter steering, and these cars, the way they're set up, they drive off the rear tire. So the whole car, basically the left front is pinned to the track, and the way the car handles, or the way it should handle, is that right rear tire is taking the majority of the load. So they're constantly making adjustments or neutral steering, or just turning in a little bit, and then when they get to the gas, they're going back. So you've got your car control, and then there's tire management is huge. You have to constantly be thinking, okay, I'm 30 laps into this 100-lap race, or I'm 75 laps into this 200-lap race. You know, you really, the way the compounds are, you can burn up your stuff. Like the multiple compounds in Formula One, like the super softs or the softs or the prime tire, it's the same idea, where I may be able to do a long stint on this super soft tire, but geez, if I drive it too hard, I'm going to burn it up, and there'll be negligible results.
Exactly.
You know, in the longer races, there are pit stops as well. So then there's that whole strategy between fuel and pit stops is, you know, can I drive these very soft compound tires to the absolute limit every single lap to my pit stop, and then thankfully I'll get 4 brand new ones on my pit stop and I can keep going, or can I stretch it out? Can I run the whole race on one set of tires? So there's pit box management, there's tire management, there's fuel management, then there's the heat. Sometimes my onboard cameras, they actually overheat. My camera will overheat and shut down. At these short track races where the speeds aren't that high, and the way they adjust the aerodynamics, you can account for 30 to 40 degrees higher temperature than ambient at the driver level, and then down in the foot box, probably another 20 to 30 degrees beyond that. You know, guys' shoes are melting there. So there's the physical level too.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't remember. Oh, I'm not trying to remember. It was, I think it was this year, and you know, it was Jimmy Johnson. He won at the track. They repaved it, right? And he had you know, he was struggling to get his sort of fire suit off. Do you remember that race in Victory Lane? And you know, and what I'm trying to make the point is exactly what you're saying, the physical thing. Yes, some tracks are more or less physical. That's a fact. Same with Formula One. You know, if you go to Malaysia with the high humidity, of course, that's going to be more physical than maybe other races. But the thing is, though, NASCAR is physical, and also it's a very strategic. Is it okay? Is it okay to say it's a very strategic endurance race?
I believe NASCAR is, for sure, 100%. There are teams of engineers that just run simulations on fuel and fuel mileage, and the motor departments not necessarily just tune for max output. They tune for the balance of fuel economy and horsepower, and yeah, strategy it's huge. It's a chess match. Even at this local level, the longer races at a local level are a chess match as well, with the same type of deal, where, you know, how do we choose to run this race? Do we run the first half of the race, just lay back, you know, maybe even possibly get lapped, then the second half of the race with fresh tires, go for it? Or do we want to stay up front the whole time and really try to dominate and just burn up your stuff? So it's a constant balance, and it's learned at this level, or it's I guess their teeth get cut at this level, and then as you go up, the strategy gets more in depth.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's, as a skill that, there's so many things that goes into a NASCAR race weekend, and so many variables that has to come to play. Therefore, it's, that's why, if you go back in NASCAR history and you watch these, the current drivers, maybe they won between 5 or 8 races throughout the season. That shows how much variables have played in their favor. With the tire strategy, with the spotters, with the fuel strategy, setup, etc., etc., etc. So it is so many things that has to play for your, to tilt in your favor, basically, for you to be successful at any level of NASCAR, really. And that's why, I started watching very late, but that's what I finally got into that, with all these different things that has to be, right, basically, for you to be successful.
Yeah, there's no one silver bullet. There's
Yeah.
no one key, or there's no one switch. It's the culmination of a lot of different things.
Yeah, I actually I interviewed Steve Letarte, and it was quite interesting to hear him. He's been worked with Dale, and he worked with Gordon, etc., etc. So in there you really got it. I'm like, wow, Jesus. It's high level. All of the racing is high level. Face it. V8 supercar is high level. Prototype racing is high level, etc., etc. But it's so impressive because it's so different. It's so different from so many different types of racing. Whereas rally, you have this, you're reading the notes, and you race against the clock to Pikes Peak, which is very different. So that's what I love about all kinds of racing out there. But this question is something that I think is going to be important for Europeans listening to this, specifically, not all Americans. And that is, when you go to maybe one of these races, what do you get when you go there?
You get access, even beyond the NASCAR level, where you can literally go right up to the cars, touch them, introduce yourselves to the crew, the driver. You sit. Your viewing is multiplied. Your viewing is, you're literally on the edge of your seat on one of these short tracks. You don't need binoculars. There's no long distance. You're not looking, geez, I really can't see, or there's no sectional viewing. You see everything. And as a photographer at a short track, it's fantastic, because if you have a good viewpoint, you can literally just spin around in one place. And as long as you don't get dizzy, you can get everything you need. You can go from one end to the other, but you don't miss anything. You're right on the edge of your seat. You can see all the action. Everything is in very, very close confines. And then on top of that, you can see all the action, your sensory, the sound, the smell, the race fuel, the rubber. You've got thousands of people in that same small location. So you then, like in like a Formula One or a MotoGP event, you can feel that energy as well. So it's a different experience versus like you see this small section of track versus you see everything, and then you have the sensory overload of the cars, and then you have the fans' energy. So really cool.
Yeah. So
really cool.
You get a lot from going there, and it's
extremely affordable.
Yeah.
Extremely affordable.
Compare that to Formula One, man. Oh God.
Yeah. Like the largest race of the year, in our region, it's to go in the pits and get complete access, like a hot pass. Go anywhere you want, and then still be able to go in the bleachers. It's $40 American.
Wow, that is, and even but even the cup level are cheap. Even
right.
Of course it's got higher, but if you look at other races, if you take Formula One, why I want to use it as an example is because how bonkersly expensive it is. It's not even funny, and it doesn't need to be that expensive. That's why you can't get Americans to go there, because
it goes back to being relatable.
Yeah, exactly. But not only that, why would you want to spend that kind of money? You can I don't know. It's just ridiculous, and that's what I'm trying to say to Formula One now. That you need to lower the costs for people to go to the events. You can fill all the arenas, and you will get broader, broader sort of, people will hear of it more, and we talk with their friends. You should go there because it's very cheap and was decent, and all that. And when you have IndyCar, and when you have NASCAR, and you have all these sort of grassroots series, there's no need for Americans to go to Formula One because quite frankly, it's not worth it. In that
We also are extremely, extremely lucky as far as motor racing goes. We have, where I live, I'm 1 hour of driving time from 5 tracks within 1 hour. Within 3, if it's a 3-hour circle, dozens of tracks. So I think another thing with Formula One is, as far as Americans, is that, of course, it's the relationship and how they can bond with it. But we're very saturated with motorsports and racing. Like, we have huge amounts of distractions and directions where we can go. So there needs to be, as far as Formula One and Americans, I think the dollar amount would help. But I think even awareness, just exposing the fans to it, because they don't really know, because they're so used to having all these other choices. Because we have so many choices.
Yeah.
Even where I live, there's a lot of choices of where we can go and get our motorsports fix.
Yeah.
Why is it worth it? I think if you took a handful of fans of this and you just exposed them to it once, they'd be hooked. I really do.
Yeah.
But it's if there was maybe an introductory, like a base package to go, and like an exposure tour. Hey, this is Formula One. It's very affordable. Come check it out. First timers. I think that would help. I think you're on the right track there.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of stimulation available. There's a lot of choices.
Yeah, you are the first person ever I talked to that we finally cracked that, because I really want to get to the nitty-gritty of it, because it's very it's on the agenda constantly. Why is it not breaking through? Why is it not breaking through? Why is it not breaking through? And I just hate when NASCAR fans are throwing shade on Formula One, and Formula One throw shade on NASCAR, and they are great, but in different ways, and they both have super talented drivers. Jimmy Johnson, a 7-time champion. You have Richard Petty. You have Dale Earnhardt. You have Jeff Gordon and Darrell Waltrip and all these great guys. They are so talented, and they all love motorsports, and that's what we need, more exposure in general for all that's out there. And as you said, you also have NHL, you got UFC, you have like an American, like, oh my God, what should I watch today?
It's overload. We have so many choices. Like, it's hard to be bored.
Exactly.
And then in NASCAR country, I went to North Carolina and South Carolina for a month in the month of March, and when I was down there, like, my mind was blown. Like, you could go to a different track and see different racing every single night of the week.
Wow, that is good.
It's amazing. Like, it's so how does open wheel racing reach out to that? How does Formula One reach out to that? It's hard. You have to make it attractive, and it could be starting with price. It could be starting with just, hey, look at us. Did you know that these guys do this?
Yeah, I agree. I fully agree, and that's why I wanted to sort of interview you, because I really thought that you would have some great inputs and things to say about it. And I love throwing all the balls up in the air and sort of catching them and reflecting around different areas of motor racing and the sports in general, because it's very, very intriguing and interesting when you sort of not just talk about it, but actually analyze it as well. And I think we've really gotten to the bottom of a lot of things, tonight, and that's I'm very, very fortunate and happy with that. So, with that said, can you now try to tell us what is your plans for this year going forward?
I have actually right before I got on with you. There's a fantastic facility up in Oromocto, New Brunswick, Canada, Maritime Canada. It's called Speedway 660. Um, my relationship with the track owners and the promoters, um, they have me up there a few times a year to do my thing, to take photos, to report on things, to put in-car cameras in, make videos. Uh, I'm planning on heading up there in the end of July. And then again in the beginning of September, just to New Brunswick, the people there in Maritime Canada, the Roy family, the track, it's awesome. This racing for Maritime Canada and Eastern Canada is NASCAR for them. So when racing events like this happen up there, it's a big deal. Everyone has a blast. Everyone is on board, having a great time. I love it up there. Short term, this weekend I'm going to Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park to cover the K&N East Bush North Throwback 100 lap race. They haven't been back, I believe, in 8 years. So a lot of you'll see like guys like Harrison Burton. Ryan Preece just announced that he's a full-time NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour driver. He got signed on by the Whelen team, the number 31 Whelen team, to run this race at Thompson because he's kind of, say, a Thompson ringer. So I'll be there. Friday is the open test day. Saturday is the race. Another cool thing about that is it's going to be a throwback weekend for them. So a lot of throwback to the old Bush North paint schemes. So I'm excited for that. Then as the month progresses, Maritime Canada. Then August comes, and August is a busy time. August I'll be the Oxford 250. And then things pop up in between as the weeks go by. So short track stuff. November I think I'll be heading south again, but I need to go to maybe an IMSA race.
Cool.
I grew up as an open wheel guy, but I do enjoy road racing, Formula One. I enjoy all forms of motorsport. I need to go to an IMSA race or a Continental Tire race or even a Trans Am race. It just hasn't worked into my schedule yet. So that's on the board or the map. But I have a lot of short track stuff in the next 4 to 6 weeks I have to cover as well.
Yeah. All right. Also, it would be very cool if you could send me some in-car footage that we can sort of put out to the channel, because that would really get some people to fall in love with the sport itself. Also, we could sort of name the driver, name your publication, and do that, because it would be pretty cool. I love just racing in general and putting it out there, because I think it's good. It's so many sort of variables, as we said numerous of times, that it is in consideration when it comes to racing and preparing these race cars. So it would be pretty cool.
Absolutely. I'll be more than happy to send you my personal YouTube channel, which is local and regional stuff. As far as Europeans wanting that knowledge or to if they have a little time to research, circletrack.com, which is Circle Track Magazine's website. It's one of the nation's oldest auto racing publications. We actually just celebrated the 35th anniversary this year. Pretty cool. The vast knowledge. The publication is more technical, on the technical end. I think we just posted an article on changing your asphalt late model setup from a traditional big spring setup to bump stops. So if those want to really get technical, they can read about spring rates and bump stops and motion ratios and Ackerman and all kinds of. They can go that route, or just your basic galleries and short video clips It's a good variety, but it's mostly the technical stuff.
Yeah.
So circletrack.com, Circletrack magazine.
All right, that's good. As I told you in the beginning of the interview, you should sell yourself a little bit. Sell in your publication a little bit. It's good because, you know, at the end of the day, knowledge is nothing that you should take as something, you know, nothing good. That, you know, it's always good to put it out there. First of all, you know, I want to say thanks for your time. It's been an absolute honor to be able to borrow your time. I'm very, very happy for that, and I think people here in Sweden and in general, all over the world, is gonna enjoy it. Please share this and link your magazine into this video so you can use it. You're free to use it in any way you want. For me, it's been great to be able to talk to you for sure. So I want to thank you for your time.
There we go, right there. Circle Track magazine. This is September 2015 edition. It should be on newsstands right now.
All right.
Pretty cool. That was actually my first cover with them.
That's cool.
So,
I like that.
One of the main deals is retain sponsor dollars and how to give your sponsors not necessarily return on investment, but return on objective. It's hard to monetize an investment with a sponsorship on a race car. You know, how do I monetize A to B? But communicating with possible sponsors, hey, you know, not necessarily return on investment, but the objective would be giving your brand or company more exposure, and this is how I can do it.
That's valuable because now if you want younger racers coming up and being able to sort of pursue their dreams, you need a sponsor. You can't think that you can pay everything out of your own pocket. So I think that, as I said before, when it comes to you, I think you're always spot on very important things when it comes to racing. So that's a very, very good thing you're mentioning right there, for sure. So I really like that. But that's
it's extremely important. There's no excuse as a young racer to not, you know, use your smartphone and use your technology that's available. Just even if it's small race updates or just thanking their sponsors on social media, because the only thing it costs is time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it's gonna be nice to see lots of youngsters coming up through the years. Thank you so much, John. It's been, as I said, an honor, and we're gonna keep in touch, and maybe you can sort of stay a little bit after the interview. I'm gonna have some following questions for you, and for everybody watching Motorsport Idag podcast, finally back with video, etc. Again, feels pretty nice. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoy upcoming episodes, and take care.